what groups do I want to put myself in and be part of moving forward? Because these groups I was part of was for where I was. I was at the time new to the online space. I was at the time new to certain things. I gained that experience and now I'm moving forward. That connection to them, it was different now. I moved on. I decluttered that, made better connections, and now the connections I'm getting are for where I'm going, not where I've been. Welcome to Declutter For Change podcast. I'm your host, Heather Clark, your declutter expert. All right, if you haven't listened to the episode where I talk about the introduction, which is 000, I would go back and just listen to that just to get a heads up on what the next 6 episodes are going to be about. It's the acronym C.H.A.N.G.E. So this episode, which is episode 1, is all about connections and why decluttering helps with your connections. I also want to mention that moving forward, for these first 6 episodes, I'm just going to get them out me recording it, voice only. I'm not going to do the intro or outro because I am, for whatever reason, getting stuck on that. So I'm just going to make this imperfectly perfect. And I remember hearing somewhere where you can't say the wrong thing to the right people, but you also can't say the right thing to the wrong people. So if what I'm saying resonates with you, then great. You're going to continue listening to my podcast episodes. And if it doesn't, that's cool too. You know what? Not everyone is for everyone, right? Anyways, so moving forward on connections, how decluttering helps with your connections. First of all, it helps with your connection to your stuff. So when you clear out the stuff that no longer resonates with you, that you no longer want, that you don't use, that you have it in the back of your closet, you haven't looked at it in however long you haven't looked at it. When you actually clear that out, you start respecting the stuff you do have in your life. You start respecting the things that you want to keep. You start putting a pride in the fact of, oh, I forgot I had this. Or you have like picture frames, or you want your home to look better. You want your desk to look better. You want you to look better with the clothes that you keep. Anything like that with the actual physical stuff, that connection, when you clear out the stuff that you don't want, you start respecting and understanding the stuff that you do keep is more valuable. You actually want to put it on display. You actually want to take care of it. So that's how it works with your stuff. The connections and decluttering helps with your connection to others. So when you, let's even just talk about as general social media, okay? Social media or anything online, the connection to those people. So when you start clearing out and decluttering the groups that you don't want to be following, that they might have worked for where you were, but now you're at a point in your life where you are like, okay, I need to move forward. I need to do bigger and better things. And it's not saying that anything with those groups is wrong. It just doesn't work for who you are right now and where you're wanting to go. So when you clear that out, you start surrounding yourself with others that are going with you, that are moving towards where you want to go. That connection alone, like social media, you go look at what groups you're following, go look at what pages you're following, go look at who you're allowing as your friends and what they're posting. Maybe that's not something that you want to have in your life anymore, which is okay. We change. Again, this is what the whole point of Declutter For Change. Change is inevitable. You need to understand that no matter what, no matter where you were, you are moving forward. Even if you really don't understand how you're moving forward or why you're moving forward, it's constant. The movement is a thing, whether we like it or not. Everything is moving. The earth moves every single day. That energy, that whole connection of it, helps you with others as well in the social media part. I remember, oh my goodness, when was it? It was end of last year sometime. I didn't even realize that I was part of groups. You know how in social media where you are added into groups, which please do not do this to people. Please send them a link if you want to add themselves to the group, but do not add people to groups. I know I'm not the only one that finds this annoying. So last year when I was going through the change of deciding whether I wanted to do the podcast, what I was doing with the business, all that stuff. So I ended up realizing that I needed to go through some of the groups, and I didn't realize how many groups I actually was a part of. So I ended up actually decluttering a lot of those, which clearing out those actually brought me to understand the groups that, okay, now I'm going to be intentional with where I want to put myself. What groups do I want to put myself in? and be part of moving forward. Because yeah, these groups I was part of was for where I was. I was at the time new to the online space. I was at the time new to certain things. I gained that experience and now I'm moving forward. That connection to them, it was different now. I moved on. I decluttered that, made better connections, and now the connections I'm getting are for where I'm going, not where I've been. The next one is globally. How does decluttering help your connection on a global scale? Let's look at the environmental part of it. When you start being intentional with what you're keeping and what you're actually throwing away or giving away on a global scale, it helps with the environment. It helps move the energy of everyone globally, the connections globally. You raise your vibration to a point where you start appreciating what you have, the people that you have in your life. You start being aware and intentional with what you're going to do. And yes, you may think, oh, but I'm just one person. Like, how does that help globally? You as one person helps the energy on a global scale, because the more you are intentional with things and the more you actually care about things and the more you care about the people, that energy spreads on a global scale, on a personal local scale. It spreads. We know moving forward that things have changed, that whether you're into your spiritual self or not, or whether you understand the whole energy thing, things are shifting. Change is here and it's going to continue, and you need to clear out all the stuff that no longer resonates with you, that no longer meets with where you're going, because otherwise you're going to be left in the dust. I'm sorry, I know that sounds really bad. It's the truth. Things are changing on a global scale, and we need to be intentional with who we're surrounding ourselves with, what we're keeping in our lives, what we're doing, how we're feeling, all that stuff. So on a global scale, that connection is huge. And the biggest and most important one is you. That connection to yourself. When you clear out things that do not belong in your life, that you don't want, that you put that intention on, it changes you. It changes your mindset. It changes the way you carry yourself. It changes the way you think. Let's talk about the three main ones that I work with and I find that are the biggest impact on everybody is the physical, the mental, and the emotional clutter. When you start to clear out those three, you change you and the connection to you. Story with me, there was years ago where I lost who I was. And I was able to tell that I did when my physical environment was, let's just basically say, it was not good. My physical environment, my emotional environment, my mind, how I was talking to myself, how I was talking to other people, all that stuff was gone. It was bad. I was not a happy person at that point because I lost the connection to me, of who I was. I didn't know who I was at that point. I was losing who I really was. And I'm talking on a spiritual level. I lost me. When I started to clear out things that no longer worked for who I was, I just knew certain things weren't me anymore. And when I started to clear those out, and I'm not saying it was easy, trust me, it wasn't. I went through some dark times, but when I realized as I was clearing those things out physically, mentally, emotionally, I was getting back to who I was and who I am and where I'm going and who I'm becoming. So that connection, when I started clearing out this stuff mentally, emotionally, and physically, I started getting back to me, the connection to myself and who I was and what I wanted. I wasn't letting others decide for me anymore. I was intentionally deciding for myself what I wanted in my life. And I'm still learning and I'm still clearing, but it's on such a higher level now. It's because of the fact that I started and continue to declutter things that no longer meet where I'm going, people that I've cleared out of my life, or you know what, even the fact that they've cleared me out of their life because I maybe was at the time toxic to them, and that's okay. But guess what? We have to accept that as well. Because even though I didn't make certain choices of when people decluttered me, let's say that, sounds really funny, but that it was for a bigger purpose. It was for me, because not only was I toxic to them, but realizing and looking back, they were also toxic to me. But I didn't realize that because I wasn't at my core. And I'm still learning what my core is, and I'm still moving forward, but I know now more of who I am and where I'm going than I ever did my entire life. And that connection to myself was only because I started to clear out what wasn't fitting. And I was listening to my gut. Listen to your intuition. And even if you're not a spiritual person, even if you're so logical, because trust me, I was there. I still have it. I get it. I get if logically you're thinking, oh, whatever, Heather, like, yeah, bring you to your spiritual self. It really does. Whether you are a logical person or not, it really does. You need to clear out your stuff mentally, physically, emotionally, to bring you closer to where you are wanting to go. We all have dreams, we all have goals, but if you're not clearing out first what isn't going to bring you to those goals and those dreams, then you're just bringing baggage, basically. You're bringing baggage forward, you're bringing those emotional crap forward, you're bringing all that stuff. And guess what? All of that will end up either causing overwhelm, causing you to break down, causing you to be so far away from who you really are that honestly, you won't even recognize you. You're so far away from you that the relationships are not going to work for you. The relationships in your life are not going to fulfill you. The stuff in your life is not going to fulfill you. It's not about making you happy through stuff, but what you surround yourself with and what your external environment's about is a reflection of who you are internally. If you don't love your stuff, that means you're not loving you. That's that connection again to you. But if you're appreciating your home, if you're appreciating the people that are in your life, if you're appreciating the things, then guess what? You're going to start appreciating yourself, and that's a reflection. Decluttering for those connections is so important, whether you realize it or not, but it's the connections that help us through those hard times. It's the connections that celebrate with us in the good times. The connection to yourself is the most important one, no doubt. The connection globally, that's going to happen regardless whether you realize it or not. The connection to others, that is definitely something that decluttering helps with, and it means connecting with others that you're moving forward towards. And then obviously a connection to your stuff. Like you start appreciating it. You start to realize before you go buy that item, do I really want this? Is this something I want to bring into my life moving forward? And just the connection to your stuff, like you start appreciating it. Go find something that really brings you joy, that you can think about, that really makes you happy. Where is that? Where is that sitting in your home? Is it on display? Is it in a box in the back of your closet? If it is, take it out. Put it somewhere where it will remind you of the times that make you happy. Because that connection is going to bring you closer to you, your stuff, others, on a global scale and on a spiritual scale. This is the first episode. I appreciate it. Like I said, these aren't going to be perfect. I just want to bring my perspective on this because a lot of my clients have said that, yes, what I say, it's not new, but maybe how I say it might be new to you and you might hear it differently. So if that's the case, then great. Fantastic. Please stay for the next however many episodes are going to be on this podcast. They're not going to be perfect. I'm trying to do this imperfectly perfect. I just want to get this out there. I want to help any and everyone that's willing to listen, that's willing to take that chance on themselves to move forward and to understand that change is inevitable. In order to move forward in that change, and in order for me to help you navigate that change, we need to declutter and we need to clear out what no longer serves you, what no longer makes you happy, what no longer brings you to that core of you and who you are and where you're going. And that's why I started the podcast. Thank you for listening. And if you want all the show notes or any links or anything like that to like my Facebook group for this podcast or my website, it can be found at declutterforchange.com/connections. I will see you on the next episode which is all about habits and how decluttering helps with those.